I'm Dave Kneeland, also a middle-aged gentleman, no glasses, and my home office is in the background here. So yeah, I currently work at Disney, and among some of my various responsibilities, I have focused heavily over the years on subtitles, IMSC, and how we can create a version of the standard that will work for us and will be interoperable and present our content as the creatives have intended. All right, so when we had to decide what the specification was going to be, there's a number of things that have to be considered. What is the scope of it? Pretty much like when you're, is the scope for what the consumer is going to see, or is the scope for archival purposes? What tools you're going to be using? Are there any things that you're willing to compromise when it comes to the style or the creative intent of the subtitles? So these are all things that have to be thought of when creating the specification. With our subtitles, the intent is to really take advantage of what Pierre was talking about, where a single asset would be able to be created from the start. That would go that would be able to be used in the mastering and the mastering workflows all the way through distribution. So with that as a scope, we also wanted to be able to use the subtitles to create stylized burn-ins when possible. And additionally, we wanted to be able to use the same asset for both HDR and SDR stuff. Content. We have controlled for these in a few different ways. The first one is that there is a level of acceptance that all of us have to have, which is that if a platform cannot natively use IMSC, there will be a WASI conversion. Additionally, there are some implementations that are not using IMSC.js as a reference renderer, and not all of the IMSC features will be able to be preserved during the decoding. So there are certain things that we've controlled for within the authoring style, but additionally, there's been a lot of focus when it comes to the interoperability of tools. So the initial IMSC implementations were not great. Just to put it bluntly, there were some very severe issues with dealing with fractional frame rates. In North America, 2398 is unfortunately still very prevalent, and the initial implementations all had a drift of, is it 3.5 seconds per hour. Additionally, the placement of the text was inconsistent. Rendering of the text, the font size, the foreign language rendering, color was not being done consistently. One asset would decode differently on one device than it would on a different device. Some tools would re-encode a clean source file to a not clean output file. So this test reel was really created to try and solve those problems. It is a just like Pierre's IMSC.js tool is a reference renderer. This is considered a reference suite of files that a transcoder can utilize. This was not created in a bubble. It was created in collaboration with many industry colleagues. So this is not simply a Fox or a Disney this does not only take those considerations into account, this also accommodates additional considerations that are frankly out of scope for our content, but are in scope for some of our industry colleagues. So those are included in here to try and make this as universal as possible, so it can help the industry out as a whole. The test reel, it is composed of 3 primary things. The first one is what we call backplates. Those backplates are a video asset. They are publicly available on GitHub. They do not include the subtitles, but they include reference information on them, so you can identify where the subtitle should appear when it's rendered properly. Additionally, there's an IMSC 1.1 file. A small snippet of it is shown here. Pierre was actually showing the entire thing earlier when he was showing off the reference renderer, so it's fantastic. And then finally, so those 2 pieces, the backplate and the IMSC file, are the 2 primary tools that a transcoder can utilize to ensure that they are properly displaying the text. So if the test is I want to take this video asset and the subtitle and then burn it into picture, then it should look exactly like the composited proxy, which is the third one. The composited proxy is something that we also created, which shows when you take that IMSC document and you render it properly against the standard, then this is how it should look. So this is an example of the backplate. This, as you can see, there are timing blips on the bottom. There are some yellow squares, which are plus marks, which show the edges of each region. Additionally, at the top, there's a counter which shows the frame number and the media time. What you're seeing now is how it looks when it's actually rendered. So this is how, if you are rendering the text properly based on the standard, then it will look exactly like this. So this is an example of exactly how it should look once you render it. So the compliance reel, it is available. The W3C is hosting them. They are available at these URLs. So please take a look at them. Please utilize them. These are intended to be used by all tools. I know I only mentioned transcoders, but they are also intended to be used by subtitling and captioning tools to ensure that when they create an asset that they can utilize this content as a reference content that they can compare their outputs against. This is intended to be used as if you have a player. So if you're testing out a hardware or a software player, then this can be used to test the rendering of the subtitle. There are many different scenarios that this can be utilized with, and I encourage you to use it. I encourage you to provide feedback. And also, one thing I should mention is that in addition to the text, there is also an image-based version. So this will test for IMSC 1.1 text, IMSC 1.1 image, and it will ensure that the colors are properly rendered in Rec 709 color space, Rec 2020 PQ, and then additionally 2100 for HLG. So that's that.